Hi, I'm John Green, Director of Education and Training for Gun Owners Action League of Massachusetts, and I'd like to introduce to you my two friends, LaShanta Petrosky-Ackley. LaShanta is a social worker with the VA, and Pierre Solomon. Pierre is a combat veteran for the U.S. Army and owner of Solomon Firearms Training and Overwatch Security. We are involved with the Governor's Challenge to prevent suicides, and we're going to be talking about a very important aspect of firearm safety today, and that is suicide prevention. Pierre, can you start us off and tell us why this issue is so important to you?
Yes, suicide prevention became important to me through my 12 years of military service. When I was in, I learned about the difficulties that service members were dealing when they were away from their family, as well as the issues veterans were facing when they were returning back into civilian life. So that made me think about who that affected, and it was people close to me. So my family, my friends, my co-workers, students, employees, and so then it became very personal for me.
Absolutely. I tell you, I was really surprised to learn the statistics with regard to suicide. You know, we talk often about ways to mitigate unintentional or accidental discharges on the range when we're carrying firearms, but we don't often talk about suicide awareness. But my demographic group, a white male in Massachusetts, 88% of firearms deaths are in fact suicides.
Yeah, it makes you realize that protecting yourself and your family involves more than just keeping them safe from accidents or any attacks. For most families in Massachusetts, suicide is a greater danger than homicide.
LaShanta, what are some ways that we can keep our friends and families safe from suicide risk?
That's a great question. I think the best thing that we can do is be aware of some of the signs of suicidal thinking. So some of those can be if someone's talking a lot about death or dying, they have a sense of hopelessness, or they perceive themselves to be a burden to their loved ones. You may notice an increase in alcohol or drug use, some reckless behavior, self-isolation, an increase in anxiety, or any type of mood swings. This is especially true if they're struggling with any type of mental health issue, along with the personal crises, such as a relationship breakup, a recent arrest, or any major life transition. Anything that puts them in a place where they feel desperate or trapped.
So if we notice a serious issue, what can we do to help?
The best thing that you can do is just to be there for your loved one. Be able to talk with them, know that they're present, and let them know that you really care about them. You do not have to solve the problem that they're struggling with. Just being there to listen can be a great help.
Another basic thing that gun owners can do is keep in mind that putting distance and time between a suicidal person and a firearm can save a life. So let's say somebody in your household is going through a really rough time. That may be an opportunity for you to reevaluate your storage strategy. Another thing you can do is reach out to another licensed gun owner who you can trust, and they can hold on to your firearm. And they may even clean your guns for you.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. And then the other option you have is you can ask your local gun store if they can store it for you. Basically, you want to look for somebody that you can count and depend on to hold on to your firearm.
All great ideas. And if you are licensed, you could consider changing the trigger locks or cable locks on the individual guns. You could change the combination on the gun safe. But ultimately, whether you're licensed or you're not licensed, you could certainly take an integral part of the gun and store that off-site.
All of my personal friends that I know, they own a ton of guns. So I would have, it's not like, hey, bring one gun. It'd be like, hey, bring your
but
entire...
at that point, right, you're taking pieces of guns.
That's a great way of being able to take pieces of it. And then if you guys are going to a fire range later, because this is an integral part of the community and really helping with that withdrawal piece, right? I don't want people to not partake in things that they really enjoy.
We talk about it. I mean, our community, it's the competition, it's the recreation, it's the ability to sit in that tree stand and watch all great things from Mother Nature. So I love the fact that we've discussed this idea of, okay, listen, you're going through a rough patch, but we know that you love to hunt, so let's go hunting. Or if we're going to go to the range and we're going to do some recreational shooting, good, let's have a wonderful day, grab lunch afterwards, and then I'll take the gear bear home from that?
And part of that conversation should also be about when do you give the guns back, right? So part of this isn't to remove the guns permanently. This is just while you're going through the stressful event. They have to be involved in this planning. The gun owner is the essential part of this, and we need to respect their liberties, their freedoms. And so having them be part of this plan, and then if they are engaged in mental health, bring in their mental health provider, as you had previously said. And if not, at the very least, you can even bring in 988 Crisis Line to say, how do we talk through this? Help them create the dialogue so everyone involved in the situation can feel safe about when it is removed and when it's returned.
So what if down the road it's you going through the rough patch? What then?
Yeah, if you're noticing that things are spiraling out of control, you want to take action before it's too late. So one thing you can do is you can store the firearm outside of the home, or you can field strip the gun, and then you can keep the slide or barrel outside of the home. One of the things that we know that building in that delay can save a life.
Yes, it can. In one study, they found that 48% of people who attempted suicide said that they first thought about attempting suicide only within 10 minutes of actually making an attempt. That doesn't mean that these thoughts came out of the blue. Oftentimes, people have been struggling for a while who've been thinking about killing themselves. But that escalation from distress to suicidal thoughts to a suicide attempt can happen pretty quickly. If you have a gun on hand, you're more likely to die by suicide than if you use anything else.
What about the idea if they don't die today, eventually they will?
I get that perspective. But someone who's actively suicidal in the moment, people sometimes think that they're going to be the same way tomorrow, next week, or even next month. But often they're not. There's been many studies on this, that 90% of people who have a suicide attempt don't go on later to die by suicide.
So a life saved in the short term is most often a life saved.
Absolutely. Sometimes what we need is time and space. Other times we may need to make a life-changing behavior or even seek mental health treatment.
What if treatment's not working?
Treatment is not always a quick fix. If you have a loved one who's engaged in treatment and they feel like it's not helping, encourage them to switch it up. Maybe find a new provider or a different course of treatment. Encourage them to keep going until they find something that helps.
I get it. Offering to store somebody's guns, get them off site, that's an awkward subject to broach, but ultimately it's about keeping our friends and our families safe. And it's a great way to say, listen, I've got your back.
So one of the things that's important for anyone entering the gun community to really think about is safety planning ahead of time. And so it's important to get loved ones involved and talk through, if I'm in a distressing situation, what can we do? Who does this go to? What part of the firearm can be removed? Am I okay with my firearms leaving the home? And often if we can plan for that when people are not in a crisis, it goes better for everyone involved because I know what to do. I know what my friend would want me to do.
Yeah, it's like helping out a friend any other time. It's like assigning a designated driver when you guys are going out, or holding on to your friend's keys if they've had too much to drink and they need to sober up. These weren't things that were normal before, but they are now, and we can take the same approach to suicide prevention.
As members of the firearms community, we have a duty to protect our friends, family, and loved ones from suicide by firearms. I want to thank you for listening today, and remember, anybody can prevent a suicide.